Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, we're going to make some mixed media heart clusters. Now these are beautiful little clusters using lace and paper and buttons, and you can pick and choose what you want to use and alter it as well. So if you want to include fabric, go right ahead. If you want to make this completely flat without the buttons and the layers, go right ahead. And if you want to make faux buttons out of paper, well, that's another thing you can add to this. You make it your own. I love the texture and the colors. And in this case, I use all neutrals. There's just something really subtle to me about incorporating the lace with the off-whites and the cream colors. But by all means, do whatever you like. So let's get started.
So this is what these little mixed media heart snippets look like. They're really little treasures. There's lace, paper, buttons. You can vary this however you like. If you like a flat image, you don't have to use the buttons. You can just punch some paper in circles so it's reminiscent of a button, or you can omit it altogether. This is a fun project to use up little scraps of paper, little scraps of lace, and ribbon. So let's get started right away. Let me show you the supplies I have. So I'm starting off with assorted papers. I'm choosing to go with all neutrals here, book pages and cream color and beige and the like that. And because I'm going with the neutrals as opposed to white, my lace all has a kind of a beige or ecru off-white color to it. I have a hole punch here that's in the shape of a heart. Makes these little ruffly hearts. You can use hole punches if you have them, but for the rest of it, I'm going to just cut out some hearts. The beauty of this is that they look a little wonky, that they're not perfect, and so that gives it a little charm as well. I like to top my little heart clusters with these buttons, so I have a bunch of buttons here, and then I have two needles with just a little bit of thread on them. One is twine, it's a thicker needle, so it'll be better for the larger buttons, and a thin piece here on a smaller needle. And then just use the adhesive of your choice. I'm using tacky glue today because that way it will adhere the lace as well as the paper together. So to get started, you're going to want to make an abundance of hearts. Now you can just make one of these, or you can make an assortment. I like to make the hearts out of all these different types of paper. Old book pages, lightweight paper, and then my favorite is this handmade paper. It's heavier, and it's kind of an interesting supply in my collection that I don't use very often. So I want to have an assortment of hearts. So I'll take this handmade paper here, this white with little silver, and I'll just cut out a heart. It can be any size. If I have a particular size in mind, I'll use that size. And now it's not much of a heart. So I'll just round it up. I kind of want this one to look a little rustic. And then I'll just play around with some others. So I'll cut out a bunch of hearts, just like I've done here. I have the different colored papers, the book pages, the different shaped hearts. Some are perfect with this little hole punch that I made, and others are not so much. They're a little more wonky, and I kind of like that. After I have a few cut, I want to layer them. So if I'm going to use this one, my next layer I want to put on will be a paper that coordinates or complements or goes kind of nicely. So I can use a book page or not. So I'll just take this, and I know this heart is kind of tall and wonky, so I'll just cut a smaller one, just playing around with it. Doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's kind of pretty when it's not. There's a little bit of interest there. So now I have two hearts. And I'll assemble some of the other pieces here as well using these hearts. If you wanted to, you could add more layers of hearts. I think 2 is sufficient. And now I go through my lace. I have an assortment of lace here, some thicker than others, both wider and taller, some thin. And now I play around with finding a heart set to go with the lace. So I'll start with the bigger ones and just figure out how it goes. That's kind of actually very pretty. That little border up top being scalloped adds a different element. So I'll just trim that down. And again, none of these pieces are perfect. They're all just kind of thrown together. If you want it to be perfect, go ahead, make it perfect. But I like this effect. take my other big piece here. I'll trim that down. I think I'll just cut around it. And I'll do that with a few pieces, finding the background that I want to use with the lace, just to give my hearts a little more something, another layer, some more interest. It doesn't have to encompass the heart either. I can just have a little bit of lace, like a little strip, kind of like that effect. So I'll make a few of these and we'll go to the next step. So I have all my pieces set up. Now I'll just go through the buttons and choose some buttons to add to the tops of them. And when I tack the button down, this will hold everything in place. If I want extra adhesion, I'll take some of this tacky glue, in particular on the heavyweight papers. And I'll just put in a little glue just to hold my hearts together. Or I could add a little glue on the background and attach it to the lace. Now, if you have a paper punch that does the edges of paper, as opposed to just cutting out shapes, this would be a great use of cutting out paper and using it as the background, as your lace piece. So you can really play around with the effect that you get. Now from here, I want to go through my buttons, and it shouldn't take me very long, but it tends to, because I get to be very fussy about where I want to use my buttons. So I'll just play around with that. And so there I found buttons for each piece. I'll just take my thread. So here I have my largest thread, which I'll look for my largest hold buttons. I'll just take this cluster, and I like to go in from the top, and I just poke through all the layers of paper as well as the lace. I leave a little tail up top, and then I'll poke through underneath again, coming up through that other hole of the button. And now I'll just knot it off, maybe just a couple of knots. And then I just trim my tails. You can add additional glue if you wanted to hold it down further, but I like the way that looks. I'm seeing those tails might be a little longer than what I want. And now I can go around attaching the buttons to all my little heart snippets. And so here are all the little completed heart snippets. I just think they're precious, and they're ready to be tucked inside a journal, whether it's a fabric journal or a junk journal, or you can even use it on the front of a greeting card. I think they're so sweet, particularly the softness of using the neutral colors. But of course, you can modify this anyway, using any color that you like.
So that's how I make my mixed media heart clusters. I just think they're so adorable. They're beautiful, and they can be made small or large, multi-layers, lots of hearts, lots of lace. Oh, I love it. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And thank you for joining me today.